The anatomy of emotional withdrawal. Most people think endings are loud and argument, a slammed door, a definitive we're over. But the most painful endings are often silent. It starts with the withdrawal of curiosity. In a healthy relationship, partners act as witnesses to each other's lives. When the unspoken goodbye begins, that witnessing stops. The shallowing. Conversations move from dreams, fears, and daily vent sessions to logistics. What's for dinner? Or did you pay the electric bill? The cooling of the micro moments. Relationship researcher John Gottman calls these bids for connection. A touch on the shoulder, a shared look, a text just to say hello. In the unspoken goodbye, these bids are consistently ignored. Physical presence, metaphysical absence. You can be sitting on the same couch, but the vibe has shifted. The air feels heavy. You feel more alone with them than you do when you are actually by yourself. The intuition versus gaslighting trap. Gaslighting. The unspoken goodbye creates a terrifying internal conflict. Your gut tells you something is wrong, but because they haven't left physically yet, you begin to question your own sanity. Often, if you confront the withdrawing partner, they may respond with, I'm just tired. You're overthinking it. Why are you always picking a fight? This is a form of unintentional or intentional gaslighting. It forces you to suppress your intuition to keep the peace. You end up living in a state of hypervigilance, scanning their tone of voice, the speed of their texts, and their body language for any sign of a return to normal. This state of high cortisol is exhausting and traumatic. Mourning the living, the double grief. The reason this hurts twice, as your hook suggests, is because you are forced to process two different types of loss. Phase 1, the grief of abandonment, the checkout. This is when you realize you are fighting for the relationship alone. You are mourning the connection. You grieve the person they used to be and the way they used to look at you. This is often the lonelier of the two phases because you are grieving while still trying to fix things. Phase 2, the grief of reality, the walk away. When they finally leave physically, the grief changes. It is no longer about the lack of connection. It is the finality of the space they occupied. Even though you saw it coming, the actual departure is a secondary trauma because it confirms your worst fears were true all along. Why people use the unspoken goodbye? It is rarely about cruelty. It is usually about cowardice. Conflict avoidance. Many people lack the emotional intelligence to have a clean break. They fear the big conversation, so they unconsciously or consciously pull away, hoping you will be the one to end it. The slow transition. Some people use the time while they are still in the relationship to build their exit ramp, processing their own grief while they still have the security of your presence. By the time they leave, they have already moved on, leaving you to start your healing process from scratch. Reclaiming your narrative. If you have lived through this, the most important thing to realize is that your paranoia was actually your perception. Trusting your internal compass. The biggest casualty of an unspoken goodbye isn't the loss of the partner, it's the loss of trust in yourself. You spent weeks or months telling yourself it's fine, while your soul knew it wasn't. Healing requires apologizing to yourself for the times you ignored your own intuition. Validating the invisible trauma. Society often doesn't give us permission to grieve until the breakup is official. But you are allowed to acknowledge the trauma of those final months. The silence was a message. The coldness was a choice. Moving forward. The unspoken goodbye eventually teaches you a harsh but valuable lesson. The truth doesn't need a witness to be real. Even if they never admitted they were leaving, your experience of their absence was valid.